Again, thank you all who commented on my last video. So this time I'm doing my top 10 wizard101 worlds. Number 10, Maribone. I have the landing motif. Once the enemies are catches rod zone sliders, smash sweepers, and robots. The final fight that ends Moriarty is a fun fight. Number 9, Mushu. Besides the name pun, because the NPCs are Japanese cows, I love how gorgeous the area is. This world has no set enemy pattern, like you could fight either krakens, elemental spirits, horses, pigs, or in the case of certain late bosses, elephants. Number 8, Zafaria. This is an awesome world. The fact that the majority of the NPCs are African animals is genius. The friendly NPCs resemble a lion, while the enemies can be either lions, gorillas, elephants, or zebras. Also, the final dungeon, Mirror Lake, is quite interesting. Number 7, Polaris. I love the Siberian look of this world. Also, the EXP gain is absurdly high. Most of the enemies are typical creatures you find in the ice, either in reality or fiction, like seals, abominable snowmen, or polar bears. Also, the spells here are great. I already talked about Raging Bull on my last list, but as for the others, Rosalka's Wrath does 1395 storm damage and randomly gives you either a plus 45% blade or a heal boost. Winds of Fate is a life damage over time to the enemy and heal to yourself spell, kind of like Hunting Worm. Winged Sorrow does 800 to 980 death damage to all enemies and inflicts a minus 20% negative effect. Witch's Housecall does 1050 to 1160 myth damage and gives you an ed partner. Nested Fury does either 805 ice damage, 970 fire damage, or 1050 storm damage, despite being a balance spell. But the coolest, in my opinion, is Snowball Barrage, which does 95 damage per pip to all enemies. Number 6, Wisteria. I love the tournament gimmick of this world. Also, the fact that it has a twist where the last mandatory boss steals the Spiral Cup of trophy. There are 3 variations of enemies in this world. Wood Goblins, which are fire, Hobgoblins, which are balance, and Tree Men, which are life. Number 5, Avalon. I love how this is based on Shakespearean England. Also, the reason you have to go here to get the Sword of Kings to counter Mordantha is interesting. Additionally, the fact that the bosses are usually either fallen knights or dragons is clever. Plus, as a life character, this world gives you the spell Guardian Spirit, which revives you once if you fall. Number 4, Wallaroo. The Australian gimmick is so clever. Also, the spells are flashy as heck. For example, Wobidon Frenzy just requires 3 death pips and an ice pip. Count Crocula requires 3 ice pips and a myth pip. Zand the Bandit requires 3 life pips and a storm pip. Bunyip's Rage requires 3 storm pips and a death pip. Rainbow Serpent requires 3 balance pips and a death pip. Phantasmania requires 3 fire pips and a life pip. And Drop Bear Fury requires 3 myth pips and a fire pip. Number 3, Lemuria. The South American rainforest aspect is clever. Also, the level design is immersive. Additionally, the fact that the first mandatory dungeon is a volcano is cool. Also, the spells in this world are interesting. Old One's Endgame does 760 balance damage to all enemies. Rim Reader does 890 death damage Blast Off does 955 fire damage after 4 rounds. Freeze Ray does 765 to 845 ice damage to all enemies. Sword of the Jundle does 720 life damage and converts Absorb to a blade. Barbarian Zada does 975 myth damage, and Dark and Stormy does 1155 storm damage. Number 2, Dreadinspire. This is a peak finale to Arc 1. My only complaint is this is home to one of the longest dungeons in the game, the Labyrinth. And finally, number 1, Caramel. This is number 1 for a few reasons. First, the colonial Germany ride. Second, the candy-themed enemies. Third, the spell strength. My favorite, being a rock and roll fan, is Sound of Musicology. It does 885 storm damage and gives 3 storm blades per enemy knocked out. And fourth, the Willkommen Jindal. And anyway, that's all from me. See you all next time. Peace.